Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and this is MB12 for Wednesday, April 11th, 2012, broadcasting from the Cable 12 studios on Robinson Road. In news tonight, the Prime Minister responds to criticisms of the F&M in the run-up to the next general election. PLP leader Perry Christie defends his party's record on jobs and calls for additional job creation. DNA leader Granville McCartney confident his party will secure the next government. More union discontent, this time the Public Managers Union, and incidences of depression among the elderly. We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Your NB12 starts right now. Joining us. The 2012 general election is 26 days away, and Free National Movement leader Prime Minister Hubert Ingram says he expects a race that will end in Bahamians returning confidence in him as leader, even though he's running without a deputy leader on his ticket. Paige Ferguson spoke with the Prime Minister today, who responded to criticism from his opponents and members of the public.
One day after Parliament is dissolved and he's in full election mode, and now that the bell has been rung, Prime Minister Hubert Ingram says he's now only focused on winning an election. And regarding claims by the opposition that he set the election date when he did because he's running out of time, the Prime Minister said it's utter nonsense. For weeks leading up to yesterday's election date announcement, many have said the Prime Minister was holding the nation hostage by not revealing a date. The opposition leader said Ingram was running out of time to do so. But here's the Prime Minister's response.
If Perry Christie dissolved the House on Thursday of Holy Week, what was he doing then? Was it Russian then? I hate nonsense, and I don't like responding to nonsense. We are dissolving the House within the 5-year period that we've been granted by the government, the people of the Bahamas. The next Parliament will meet exactly 5 years after the election before. That's been the tradition in the Bahamas. The only time when there has been an early election was when I called one in 1997, in March, as opposed to in September. Everybody else has gone to 5 years.
Yesterday, the F&M's campaign spokesman and Mount Moriah incumbent Tommy Turnquest publicly criticized Senator Dwayne Sands for revealing the election date before the Prime Minister. Ingram today indicated he had no issue with this.
Were you disappointed by Dwayne Sands' announcement of the date before you?
No, not at all, not at all, not at all. In fact, I think it's a misunderstanding. Dwayne Sands heard a story on Love 97 at 1 o'clock. On the basis that he BBM'd his various people and said elections would be on the 7th. Dwayne Sand had no means of knowing when elections would be called because I hadn't told him or anybody else. And so it was a good guess. Nothing wrong with what he did.
And many of the F&M's opponents have also pointed to the fact that the F&M no longer has a deputy leader. Brent Simonet is not running in this race. The nation's chief said his party doesn't need a deputy.
President Deputy Leader of the party will demit office in June when we hold our convention. At that time, the party will elect a new deputy leader. It's a very routine, simple thing. I don't need, like others, to have a deputy to carry me. I stand on my own 2 feet, and my own man. I lead the party.
And the Prime Minister also chastised those members of the public who went to register yesterday. He said he gave ample opportunity to do so.
There's never been a longer process, a more organized process in the history of the Bahamas. For some people, you are never going to be on time for them. No, I'm not concerned about that at all. Everybody had more than ample opportunity to register. What you ought to do is compare the register of 2002 and 2007. See the difference in the number of voters who were registered to vote in 2002 and those who were registered in 2007. And then ask yourself the question why. And maybe Mr. Christie could answer that.
The Prime Minister is calling on voters who will not be able to cast their ballots on May 7th to not wait until the last minute and to take advantage of early voting measures put in place.
We have modernized and updated our laws. So, for instance, Paige here, who's getting married, if she wanted to go on her honeymoon, she'd be able to vote. at the pre-poll and have a vote counted on election day. If somebody is going to be on vacation, somebody's going to be hospitalized, somebody is pregnant and expect to have their baby in that period of time, somebody who is a candidate for a constituency in the Family Islands, they and their spouses can vote early.
Today, the Secretary General of the Organization of American States sent a letter to Governor General Sir Arthur Folkes accepting the request from the government to have the OAS observe this year's elections. It will be the first ever OAS electoral observation mission deployed to the Bahamas. The government has also requested observation from CARICOM and the United States. Reporting for MB12, I'm Paige Ferguson.
Meantime, Progressive Liberal Party leader Perry Christie says the country needs at least 30,000 new jobs over the next 3 to 4 years. It's an ambitious goal he hopes to achieve if the opposition wins the 2012 general election. Mr. Christie also sought to silence critics who questioned what he achieved during his term in office. Vonique Toot reports.
There's no question Progressive Liberal Party leader Perry Christie has his fair share of staunch supporters. However, there are others who believe he spent more time talking than acting during his time as Prime Minister between 2002 and 2007. Tonight, he hopes to set the record straight. During an exclusive interview with NB12 at his home on Cable Beach, Mr. Christie claimed that he did a hell of a lot for this country during his time in office, adding that Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham should thank his lucky stars that the PLP was in power before the FNM was elected in 2007. He says the third phase of Atlantis began under the Christie administration. The PLP government set the foundation for the new National Stadium, renegotiated the opening of Club Med, introduced airport management to Lynden Pinling International Airport, and maximized the presence of schools in this country by electing to build many new classrooms instead of schools.
Hubert Ingraham is 90% politics. He knew that governments don't govern for election periods. That's not good governance. Governance governs a country for the future. He knows that. So he knew that if he allowed the Bahamian people to look at what I had accomplished, that he would have a problem being re-elected. Hubert Ingraham never had a vision. He is a mechanical person. He does things. He builds a building. He builds a road. But in terms of seeing the Bahamas in 10 years' time, that's not his interest.
The opposition leader also boasts of creating 22,000 jobs during his term in office, a claim that is not supported by labor force statistics, which state that 18,800 jobs were added to the economy between 2002 and 2007. Mr. Christie not only sticks by the PLP's figure, but believes a new PLP government can create 30,000 new jobs going forward.
Quite frankly, the country needs 30,000 jobs over the next 3-4 years. However argumentative one would like to be, the fact of the matter is the PLP created jobs in its last term. And those jobs, we argued, were 22,000. When the people told me 22,000, I argued more as a matter of fact. But we 22,000, the Guardian says maybe it's 18,000. But the fact of the matter is, we created jobs. And in that same way, that same level of confidence we will bring, we have to do it.
Here is how he proposes to create those jobs.
We have a plan of job creation. And that plan is in being able to consolidate the tourism industry and recognizing that it is still the most important industry, to consolidate on financial services. Those are the two sources of employment now, like 60% and 15% respectively in terms of the GDP. And then we want to be able to have a major approach at diversifying the economy.
The PLP's plan also includes putting a freeze on expenditure and finding new sources of revenue. However, Mr. Christie admits that the next government will have to borrow hundreds of millions of dollars.
I mean, there's a need now to borrow over $300 million for the capital development budget. The reality is we're going to meet in place certain financial, fiscal conditions, economic conditions. And what I'm anticipating is that we're going to meet the resolutions to borrow the money, as is the normal thing. And the question is just how much is going to be there. And also we're going to meet reports in place as to what flexibility we have to introduce the programs we promise the people of this country.
It's plans like this one which he feels will help to secure a victory for the PLP in the polls. He strongly believes that for the first time ever, Prime Minister Ingram could possibly lose his seat. He served as Member of Parliament for North Abaco for 7 consecutive terms and on Monday appealed to his constituents to make it 8 straight.
I have never been a person who thought Hubert Ingram's seat could be won, except this time. This is the first time in all my years, okay, that I'm satisfied he is in the fight of his life.
On Election Day, Mr. Christie believes it will come down to 2 things: which political party has the strongest team and which has the strongest message. The opposition believes that the PLP currently holds the edge. He says their only challenge is holding on to that edge in the 3 weeks leading up to the May 7th general election. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Tude.
And Democratic National Alliance leader Branville McCartney says not only is he confident that he will be returned as the MP for the Bambootown constituency, he's also confident that his party has garnered sufficient support to become the next government. Charisma Robinson reports.
Both the Progressive Liberal Party and the Free National Movement have repeatedly said that this election will be between the 2 major parties, suggesting that a third party is not going to make a dent in the political landscape, as many Bahamians are just not ready for that. While time will tell if that is the case, Democratic National Alliance leader Branville McCartney today dismissed repeated comments that he is not equipped to lead this country. During a press conference today at his party's headquarters, the DNA leader told reporters that if experience is all it takes to lead a country, then both F&M leader Hubert Ingram and PLP leader Perry Christie are not fit for the job.
The country's in a mess. Country's in a mess. I just outlined the crime, the immigration, the economy, education, healthcare. Our social fabric is in a mess. That is with those so-called experienced leaders at the helm. That didn't happen overnight. That took 20 plus years, and this country has been ruled over the last 20 years either by Hubert Ingram or Perry Christie. That's where experience, so-called experience, got you.
And McCartney says what has happened with his party over the last 11 months is a testament to his ability to lead this country successfully.
Both leaders tried to do what happened here in the DNA and failed miserably. You know that the Prime Minister and Perry Christie tried to form a party. You aware of that? And they failed. Perry Christie had to go back to his vomit, as he said. And Mr. Ingram was embraced by a party that was in existence for 20 years.
Some people also think McCartney's lack of experience is one of the main reasons why it appears as if his party has lost a bit of momentum. But McCartney refuted that claim. He says his party has been on the ground from the very beginning and has done enough to win the next government. He also claims that the lack of media coverage over the last 5 weeks has made it appear that his party has lost momentum.
We are asking that the media allow us an opportunity to get our message out there. We have 26 more days before this election. I think the Bahamian people, they have a right to know what our message is as a party. We are a major party in this election. This election is going to be the first of its kind in the history of the Bahamas. The first of its kind in the history of the Bahamas.
And now that the general election has been called, Mr. McCartney is once again challenging Mr. Ingram and Mr. Christie to engage in a public debate.
We are also calling, in light of the fact that the election has been called, we are asking again that there is a public debate among the leaders of the party, public debate between Mr. Perry Christie, Mr. Hubert Ingram, and Branville McCartney. I think we are at a stage in our democracy where that's warranted. Now, I know that the Prime Minister has commented on that already when he says that he does not talk foolishness and that he debates every day. And I think Mr. Perry Christie commented and said that he and Mr. Ingram would beat me in a debate. well, poor sufferer. It has nothing to do with beating anyone in a debate. It is for the Bahamian people.
Now the DNA will have its sixth in a series of town meetings on good governance tomorrow at 7 p.m. Reporting for NB12, I'm Charisma Robinson.